Hello guys, and welcome to the second part of TELE Mods, this series that we started last week. We're going to continue working on the guitar. The first video was about stripping down the guitar and leaving just the body that we're going to work on. And we're going to talk about the shielding today. We will start, this is just a recommendation, you could start with the pickguard. So for that we're going to use this tape. That's copper tape. I don't have exactly the thickness now in my mind, but it's pretty thin. It's like a packing tape, but a little thicker probably, but made of copper. We need something conductive. You can use aluminum tape too, but it's, for what I understand, it's much better to use copper. Alright, so the first thing is you want to do is to face your pickguard, the internal part of the pickguard up, let's say. So I have the reverse here facing me, and we're going to measure. This is not so strict, but we will try to cover as much as we can of the pickguard with this copper tape. So here I'm measuring. This is done by eye, guys. No, don't stress too much. As long as you cover as much as you can, it's okay. So some of the parts of the video I'm going to speed up, but in others I will leave some images because the details sometimes matters. So I hope this is useful for you. So I'm trimming here. The first part I'm going to do is the one that covers the hole that holds the neck pickup. So I'm going to peel this off. This is the way I do it. Maybe you find another more interesting. And you will stick to the top of the pickguard, let's say. Measure it well so you don't have a tape coming out from the end of the pickguard, let's say. And I will stick that part, and then I will peel off the rest, try to keep it flush against the pickguard, like so. And then with your fingers, very gently, you stick the rest. It's like when you put like a clear screen on the cell phone, something like that, but way more easier. It's very unlikely that you're going to have bubbles, and if you have, it doesn't really matter because it's going. Remember that it's going to be facing the inside of your guitar. So then with a piece of cloth you can finish the work. It's okay to mark where is the hole of the pickup. There's no problem with that because later we will need to cut that so we can install the pickup through. So since you saw the first time, now I'm going to speed up and I'm going to complete a second layer there. You may not have the same tape, so it may take you 2 or 3 or maybe only one if it's a thick one. And then I'm going to do the cutaway here. And since it's hard to find a piece that fits perfectly, I will leave some tape, and then I will cut the rest with a very sharp knife or X-Acto knife, about 2 or 3 millimeters from the edge. You can see there very clear. You see how you can see some white plastic between the copper tape and the edge of the pickguard. Don't throw absolutely anything because you will use it later on. So any leftover will be, you can see there I'm using the leftover from the cutaway to do the upper horn there. Same thing, very gently you cut that. You don't need much pressure because remember this is a very thin tape and you don't want to damage your pickguard. Anyway, it's kind of thick, you're not going to damage it. so easily, but try to be creative here to find I'm using all the pieces I am taking off to match the shape that I still need to cover. It's important that you take time for this. You have to be patient. Some copper tapes are easier to work with than others. So if you feel that you're not very confident with this, you can practice in any other piece of plastic or maybe foam board, so you know how the material is going to react when you have to do it for, let's say, for good. There you go. So what we want to create here is a shield on that big word, and we're pretty much done there. Remember that basically what we want to do is to create a continuity on the ground of the guitar. Don't worry about those words if you don't know what it is, but we want all the copper parts that we're going to shield had to be connected somehow. So I will explain a little bit later on. Okay, now using the same knife, I'm going to cut the place to let the neck pickup go through that pickguard. I suggest you to leave nothing. I mean, you don't need to leave any space between the hole. The only important is to trim it very carefully, so you don't have any piece of copper tape sticking out after, and it's not going to look nice. So as long as it's neat and clean, the cut like that, no problem. I'm going to use this part now. I have a little hole there down, so to cover that, just perfect. We didn't waste anything. And another thing is that if you have some of the screw holes that you have in that pickguard are covered by the copper tape, this is a good moment to release them. Just use your knife and make a little hole. Alright, so we're pretty much done with this. I'm sure you're going to make it better than me. It doesn't need to look good, it just has to be functional. Okay, now moving to the body of this Tele. Basically we're going to do the same thing. It's every single one of these cavities where the circuit is going with the controls, the volume, tone, and the neck pickup and bridge pickup. We're going to cover them with this copper tape. So here I'm cutting a piece and I'm kind of trying to shape it slightly to the shape of the control cavity that we have there. So someone is knocking. All right, so this part is going to be a mess, I'm telling you right now, so don't worry if it doesn't look super neat at the beginning, but since the tape is kind of thin, it's very easy to shape it after. So as long as you cover the whole bottom and you have some material sticking out from the sides, you're good. And don't worry, because you're going to complete that work with many other pieces. As long as the copper is in touch with each other, every piece, let's say, they will have conductivity, and that's what we want. So it doesn't really matter how good it looks. So here I already covered the bottom, and I still have to work on the sides of those walls to cover them too. So I will cut a little piece here. you need to work a lot with the fingers and kind of push the material against the walls, and it's going to look like some wrinkles there, but don't worry, because since it has the tape has some glue, it's going to stay there and it's going to work perfectly. It's not going to affect the final. See, you can see it's not wow, but good enough, let's say. Of course, you can take more time and cut a perfect mold for that hole, etc. But I think it's not worth the time to do it, because you cannot tell the difference on how the guitar is going to sound, and that's what we are caring about here, right? So I will trim all the excess. We don't want to leave too much, just maybe a couple of millimeters, so then that plate that is going to go in that place will press against the copper tape. Now I'm going for the bridge pickup there. As you can see with my finger, I'm kind of shaping again just to have a reference, just to have a little something to start with. It's not necessary, but I kind of feel more comfortable doing it, so you can totally do it too. And here you will see clearly how hard it is to do this. I mean, it's not hard, it's just sticky. See, I'm pushing with my thumbs there against the walls. Yeah, it's going to look nasty, but don't worry. If you keep working it, the material is going to flatten up, see? And it's going to look great. Remember, you want to leave some of the material sticking out from the hole, so then when the plate and the bridge sits over that hole, it's going to get connected to. All right. So now I'm going for the neck pickup. Same story here. That's why we're going fast. You already got it. By this point, you should be feeling very comfortable with this. So again, and this is where some people make some mistakes. They just leave it there and they put all together and that's it. And there's a problem. The shielding makes sense if everything is connected. So, for example, all the routing for the cables should be shielded too. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm using a very thin tube, let's say, of copper tape to shield also the channels, the routing for the cables. This is a very important step to remember, that those channels need to be free so you can put your cables again through them. So it's important that you release them somehow. After you put the copper tape, you need to use some Allen wrench or some piece of wood or something to make a hole, so the cable is going to be able to go through again. And remember, you need to connect every cavity, every hole together. So you can use a piece of tape, you can use a cable. I don't recommend a cable. It's going to be, some guitars don't have enough space to go with a cable. So you just use a piece of the same tape just to connect everything together. And then we're going to be good. At the end of our job, everything should be connected. How we can test that? Well, there's something called a multimeter. That's what I'm using right there, and that multimeter has a function called continuity. That function usually is represented by a little speaker or something like that. You need to read your manual, the manual of your multimeter. Not every multimeter is the same, but it's going to have a buzzer and will tell you when things are connected between them, will make that a noise or a beep. So in this case, I'm checking that every single cavity is connected with the other. That's a way to do it. So you, for example, you put one of the poles of the multimeter in the bridge pickup, let's say, and the other one in the neck pickup, and should have continuity. So here I'm checking. You need to be very careful with this. Take your time. I'm checking again. I didn't have good continuity there. That's a symbol in the lower right corner that you want to see in your multimeter. That will give you the reading that you need. This is a very good way. So here I'm good. I will move to the next. Hole, and also remember to check your the place for routing the cable should have that. If for some reason it's not perfect, you can cut another piece like I'm doing here and add another piece of copper so the connection is finished. I'm not a very patient guy per se, let's say, but in these kind of things, I kind of overcome my own flaws, let's say, my own weaknesses, and I really take the time to make it nice. Because at the end of the day, it's your guitar, you know, I mean, what could be more pleasant than work on your guitar? So here I'm using a little Allen wrench to be sure that that hole is totally flat. The piece of copper tape that I use is totally flat against the walls of the hole, so when I put the cable, it's not going to have any problem. So there I'm testing every single cavity with each other, and I have continuity everywhere. That's what we want. So every time you connect, you're going to hear a beep. So well guys, this is officially the end of the second part. We will keep working on this guitar. We still need to put everything together. We need to change the tone pot for the push-pull. We need to change the nut. So thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you like it.